Hello, everybody. Welcome to August's live class. I can't believe we're already in August. It just seems crazy. I feel like I just started doing these live classes and now we're already on number 8. With that being said, if you missed any of the past ones and you'd like to go back and just either rewatch them if you've seen them already for some refreshers on what we talked about, or watch them for the first time, links to all of them are in the description box. So there are 7 previous classes, and there's going to be several more in the future. So I'm very excited for all of them. And if you ever have any requests for live class ideas or any videos just in general, always feel free to send them to me. I can't ever promise that I'm going to do anything because a lot of times when I'll write everything down, like any idea that comes to me, I'll write it down. And then when I go to get some ideas, I'll flip through my list and I'll always just pick what jumps out at me. So it's possible that you guys can send me requests and it just doesn't ever happen, but always send them to me because you never know. Maybe it'll be like an immediate thing where I want to do it, so you might get lucky that way. But otherwise, welcome to this month's class. This is going to be on loose glitter, which I have in a nice little jar. So this is the stuff that you can get that's nail specific. I know that there's even some companies that do like a glitter of the month club. I'm pretty sure Wildflowers has something along those lines, that they have like a glitter that they send out that's like a seasonal one and they switch them out all the time. I don't know if it's like every 3 or 4 months or something and it's a box or what it was. I haven't really looked into it, but loose glitter comes in jars like this. Sometimes it comes in baggies, and it is, if you don't know how to apply it and you try to, it can be a huge mess and it might not last or it might snag in your hair or all of these things. So we're going to go through 4 methods of applying this loose glitter in a jar or a bag. And if you do have it and it's in a bag, transfer that to a jar. It's so much easier. But the first one is one that I would say is the most used for myself, and that is going to be encapsulation with acrylic. So essentially what you do is you take a bead of acrylic, you dip it into the loose glitter, you apply that to the nail. No pre-mixing required. You sort of mix as you go. And the reason I say that's the most used for me is because it's convenient. It is super convenient if you're doing acrylic already. You just have to, grab your glitter, open it up. That's all the preparation you have to do. That's it. And it looks really good. It's not maybe as smooth or as perfectly placed as it is with some of the other techniques, but it looks good. It's smooth at the end. It looks nice. And that's probably my favorite or most frequently used method of dealing with loose glitter. The next one is you take some clear acrylic or an acrylic color, and you take your glitter and you pre-mix that together so that you have a mixed pot of your loose glitter color. And if you just do that with clear acrylic, the color you're getting is just going to be from your glitter. So if you have a glitter that is perfect just the way it is, you can do it like that, and then you'll get an even application because the glitter will be dispersed throughout the clear acrylic powder. And then if you want to add in a little bit of color, you can play around with different techniques like a jelly with some glitter in it, or you can even have like an opaque base and have just some glitter flakes that peek through here and there, and that would be kind of up to you. And I would say that is the best choice if it's a glitter that you think you'll use a bunch. So if it's something that's a color that, all of your clients come in and they want this color, then that would be a good one. Or if you have a specific client who wants this color and they love it and they want it over and over and over again, pre-mix it, because then it actually is more convenient. The other times I've done it are, say, for, I have a loose glitter that I mixed. I actually have a video tutorial on this specific product. I just used it last night, so I had it out really close. And it is a black with some purple glitter in it, which is a color that I absolutely love, and I've used it on myself. I used it in the background of a whole bunch of nails. It's just a color that I reach for constantly. So I pre-mixed it, and I just keep it in this little jar so that I can use it whenever I want to. Like I said, I do have a video on this specific color mixing, and I can put a link to that in the description box below. When we're all done with this live, I'll go back and I'll add it in. But yeah, so it's good if you want to do a whole bunch of it. That would be the reason. So now you can do the same thing, but with gel instead, where you can mix up a custom blend. You can stick it in a little jar, you can save it. But if you do stick it in a little jar, make sure it's one that is has some UV resistance to it so that you don't have to worry about the sun or a lamp or a table light curing the product in the jar. So a clear one like this one that I'll be using for my acrylic mix today is not going to work for that because it'll just get cured right through that. So you either use like an old gel jar or an old gel pot because that would have that UV resistance. And the last one is sugaring. And I would say this one is maybe the prettiest because it is so reflective. The glitter is raw on the surface of the nail and it is just absolutely gorgeous. It is, like I said, probably my favorite visually just because you get all of the facets of the glitter that you can see. The major downfalls with it is that it depends on the person, I guess. Some people some clients, I know I would never sugar on them because I know they would hate it. And some, are perfectly fine with it. But the problem is it's just loose glitter that's essentially glued to the surface of the nail. And little bits can fall off here and there. And then you might find them on your face, in your car, on your clothes, wherever. You might, for the, next few days, find glitter. Some people are very offended by that. Some don't mind. And so that's kind of something to consider when you're thinking of sugaring. The other thing is that it has a texture to it. It has a feel. Whereas all the three other options are smooth. And that also is either a pro or a con to some people. Some people like to have a texture to feel. Some really don't. So that's the downfall with sugaring, or the benefit. However you want to look at it, that one's kind of a love it or hate it type of a deal. Whereas the other three are all pretty much a good option if the sugaring doesn't work for you. So now we might as well just hop right into this. So I'm going to be working on these 4 nail tips, and we are going to be covering all 4 of those techniques in the order that we just talked about them. So we're going to start with the acrylic. And if any point anybody has any questions about products I'm using, where I got certain things, what I'm doing, what my favorite color is, I don't care, whatever. If you got a question, just let me know, and I will peek over at the comment section throughout the video just to see what you guys have to say. So we are going to be beginning with, just like I said, this is the acrylic encapsulation, pick up a bead as you go type of a deal. So I've got my monomer, and I'm going to grab my acrylic. So this is Koopa's Advanced Clear Acrylic Structure Powder in a huge jar. That is my favorite clear acrylic I have ever used. It applies so much better, and it's almost like a smoother pickup, I think. See, you guys can't see this off the camera. I'm already making a big mess with my glitter. That's why some people really dislike loose glitter, just on a principle. So the loose glitter I'm using is this really pretty, super iridescent purple glitter mix that I've had for a really long time. And it's about half gone. So we're going to use that one. I actually think that color went into my black mix that I was just talking about. Well, that's funny. Okay, so I'm going to zoom this out slightly. And I'm going to bring this over so you guys can see the pickup of the bead and everything. Tuck it all in. Okay, so saturate my brush with my monomer. You can see all the bubbles coming out of it. You want to, when you first pick up your acrylic brush before you start working, you always want to make sure that all those bubbles come out of your brush before you pick up your first bead. You really want your brush to be wet to the core. So that's a little bonus tip. Then I'm going to tap off the extra. I'm going to pick up a relatively large, relatively wet bead of acrylic. You want to have extra moisture so that your glitter does not have any bubbles around it. So you're going to work with, at least in the beginning here, acrylic that maybe is a little softer than you normally would. Not dripping off your brush, but just softer. So go right from the acrylic into your glitter and then place it down. And it may, you guys might have noticed that it didn't necessarily want to place down because the glitter is immediately what's touching the nail, and that it's not sticky like the acrylic would stick down to the nail. So you have to kind of press it a little firmer than you would if it was just a bead of acrylic. So then you can kind of play around with it and get your glitter where you want it. This actually works really well for glitter fades because the acrylic at one end typically has less glitter than the other side, which, if that's what you're wanting, is almost effortless. You guys see that there's already like an automatic glitter fade? If that's not what you're going for, you just have to apply more glitter. And I mean, more glitter. That's what we're talking about tonight, right? Glitter, glitter, glitter. Okay, so we're going to grab another bead of that smaller. Sometimes I work with smaller beads just so that there's less of that kind of empty spot of glitter. You can just sort of pat it around, move it, get it all filled in. And depending on your glitter, some of them are kind of a clear glitter and some of them are more opaque. So you may have to do multiple layers to get the look that you're going for, depending on what the look is. I'm going to apply just a smidge more glitter to this corner down here in this side. And while the glitter is wet, you can even dip your brush that doesn't have an acrylic bead on it into your glitter like this, and then apply that. It really only works then if your acrylic is still quite wet, but that can be a way to add more glitter in. So now at this point, there is some glitter on the surface of the nail that is raw still. It doesn't have anything covering it or protecting it. So you do want to go through and encapsulate this just to make sure that that glitter is protected, especially if you're using a glitter that is opaque, because typically this one I'm using here is clear as a base, but a lot of times those ones that are more opaque have a silver, the actual glitter is silver, and then it's got a color coating on it to give it whatever color it is that you see. And so if you file it, that color coating comes off, and then you're left with this no longer silver, no longer pretty, scratchy, almost concrete gray middle that shows up, which is no fun. So you want to encapsulate. And if you aren't sure what kind of glitter you have, encapsulate. It doesn't hurt anything. So we're going to do, that's the first little bit, and then we're just going to add one more bead to the top of this. I'm not going to be filing these nails at all tonight. I'll top coat them at the end, but they're just going to stay as they are, unfiled. So if they end up looking a little wonky, that would be why. All right, there's our first demonstration. Okay, so I have a question here. Do you recommend odorless monomer in the application or standard liquid and powder? That's completely up to you. One benefit of using odorless is that you'd have a little bit more time to work with the acrylic and with the glitter. So if you want to move the glitter around a little bit more than otherwise, then you would have that chance. But if you are I guess use whatever you're comfortable with, I suppose, is the best answer to that question. I don't have a good reason to use one over the other at all, because they would both work. What I'm using now is just your standard sculpture monomer. It is not odorless, and I mean, I didn't have much time. This is pretty much cured, but I work pretty quickly, so that doesn't bother me. But if you prefer to use odorless, that's fine. If you prefer to use a slower setting one, that could just give you a little bit more work time, but it's not like a you must or you don't have to, or you can't. It's, personal preference. So there's the first one. So now I've got my second one out just for the time being so I don't spill. I'm going to put a cap on that. And then we're going to do our glitter mix. This is our pre-mixed acrylic. I've got some gel on the way. So I have a little Dixie cup, and I have a bunch of these that I use for mixing glitter, or mixing acrylic, really. So I've got my Dixie cup. I have a tiny whisk, and then I'm going to get out, I forgot to grab my scoop. There it is. All right, and then I'm going to use a cuticle pusher as my scoop. And the reason to always use the same scoop instead of just using whatever's handy is that if it's something you want to make a second time, you can write down your recipe and say, it's 3 scoops of clear, 1 scoop of glitter, and 1 scoop of purple powder. And that is, that's your recipe for this, so that you can replicate it if need be. So I'm not going to make a whole bunch of this because the only jar I found is this really small one. So we're going to just make a tiny bit of this glitter mix. So I'm going to grab probably, I don't know. You know what? I'm going to make that recipe I just said. We'll see how that goes. So we got 3 scoops of clear. We're going to do 1 scoop of the glitter. 1 scoop of glitter. And then I have a purple acrylic here. This is Koopa's After Party. And one thing that I do that I don't know if anybody else, if you guys would think this was smart or stupid, but I like to use acrylic in these mixes that I make that I don't particularly like otherwise, because the bad qualities of it, whatever, like application or pigment or whatever I don't like about it, gets diluted typically. And so I don't really like these Koopa Triptych powders. So I always use them when I'm mixing because they get mixed in with the Koopa Clear, and I love the Koopa Clear. So the fact that I think they apply a little less than perfectly gets less irritating to me. So we're going to mix this up. And sometimes when I mix them, I kind of shake it up just with my hands a little bit, just to see, or I rotate it and tap it like that. Now, depending on what you're going for, so say you're mixing acrylic to match, you're doing like a bridal party, and you want it to match the scheme and the bridesmaids' dresses and stuff, you're going to want to, like I said, if it's a specific color you're going for, not just, we're having fun tonight, we're playing around, but if it's something certain, you'll just grab your acrylic brush, grab a bead of it, because you don't know exactly what's going to look like, and then look at your glitter and be like, ooh, I love that, or I hate that. You can wipe it on your towel just to see what it looks like. So I'm going to say I like this mix. It's pretty. We'll stick it in a jar. Open my jar, and then we can pour that color mix in. There. So Then if this was a color, like I said, that you were going to want to possibly make again in the future, you'd want to write down what you just did so that you remember. I'm going to move that out of the way. All right, so now we're going to go into this jar that we have our mix in to grab the beads from instead of doing it, you know, re-grabbing from each thing. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this. There, okay, so we've got our new little glitter mix. Saturate my brush again, tap off the extra, and then pick up a bead. I'm going to apply it to the nail, and as you can see, you've got some color, the glitter shows through, and that is actually a really pretty mix. I'm super happy with it. It is just random stuff I grabbed off my shelf when I was getting ready for the class, but it turned out, and it might be one of my favorite new mixes that I have. So look at that. And just apply it as you normally would any color or any glitter acrylic. It doesn't apply differently. You don't have to treat it differently. It's the same thing. Okay, so we're gonna grab another bead of that. I'm trying really carefully not to touch the bottom of my jar, because then, have you guys ever done that? Got an acrylic where you picked up off and you touch the bottom of your jar and then you get this Stonehenge-like sculpture in the bottom of your jar of acrylic? Almost all my jars of acrylic have that. As I touch the bottom. All right, I'm gonna press that over, bring it down. Any little gaps in here I'm gonna fill in. The reason I don't like that purple acrylic that I used in this mix is because I think the color isn't very even. Some spots it's really clear, some it's really, really pigmented, and I can even see that in this application that it's still doing that where I can tell and I'm a little bit perturbed by it. Okay, tap off that. I'm less worried about encapsulating this one because, like I said, I know that this is a clear acrylic, or it's a clear glitter as far as the core goes, and so I'm not going to encapsulate this one. If you didn't know or you were worried about it, you would still encapsulate it like I did the other nail, but it's the same process. So if you were curious about that and you wanted to know, you would probably still encapsulate this. But for our purposes today, I'm going to just leave that one as is. Isn't that beautiful? That is such a pretty glitter mix. Okay, so there's that one. So we're already 2 of our techniques down. So I'm going to set that one to the side and I'm going to remove my acrylic so that I don't spill it. And then we can do the gel applications. All right, so for the gel, turn that over. The first one I'm going to show you is the mixed version, and I'm going to be using the gel bottle Biab for my mix. It is a clear builder gel is what I'm using. Oh, that's so far from being in focus. So yeah, it's a clear builder in a bottle. You can use builder in a jar, you can use builder in a bottle, whatever kind of hard gel you want to use, you can. So when I say hard gel, I'm going to refer you to my gel basics class if you don't know hard gels from soft gels. But if you don't necessarily know, just a quick explanation is a hard gel is an acrylic substitute or an acrylic product that leaves a hard film on the nail that is an artificial product, not gel polish, that is a lacquer substitute. Okay, so we have our hard gel. I'm going to scoop enough on for what I'm working on onto my palette. Now, I wouldn't recommend, so there's hard gels that are builder, there's different viscosities of hard gel. Use a thinner viscosity hard gel for this. You don't want one that is just super thick and holds its shape. You want one that flows a little bit better because as you start mixing in the glitter, it's going to get a little bit stiffer. So we're going to be using, this is actually a very thin viscosity hard gel that I'm using. So we're going to tap in some glitter and then just use any old dotting tool or spatula. There's some nail art spatulas out there. You guys can even see how the viscosity is thickening up a little bit on this? Okay, so mix all that together. We're getting a nice, you can mix until you're happy with how much glitter is in the mix. If you think it's too much glitter, add more gel. If it's not enough glitter, add more glitter. Okay, get that extra bit of gel off of my dotting tool. And then I'm gonna move that to the side, grab my gel brush and the nail. Okay, so when you're picking up your gel from your palette, if this is different, you know, you want to kind of slide under it and lift it up. You don't want to just tap into the top like you're grabbing paint. You want to kind of pick it up or scoop it up. And then we're going to be applying this. And depending on how much glitter you want, you can either float the glitter on the nail or you can essentially paint it on. I want a nice glitter coverage, so I'm going to float this, which is where you don't actually touch the nail much with your brush. You just sort of pat and swirl the gel in the direction that it wants to go, or the direction you want it to go, I suppose would be a better way of putting it. I'm going to use everything that I put on the palette for this single nail. So if you're making for a full set, you'd want to use significantly more than I just did, or be prepared to mix it again. So I'm going to apply this like that. It was a pretty thick layer of this particular product. So one thing that you can do if you want to, whenever you're using gel, and I occasionally have my clients do this too, you can flip it over. So if you're doing their nails, you can just ask them to flip their hand over. I do that not too often, but some people seem like they need that more than others for some reason. So we're gonna just leave that as it is. After it has been upside down for a second, flip it back over, make sure that it's all still where you want it to be, and then put that in your lamp. All right, so now this is done. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to set it to the side because it'll have to get a bath. And I'm going to clean off my gel brush. All these things you do while your lamp is curing. Put a cap on that. And then to encapsulate this, I'm going to go back in with my BAB just because super convenient. This is what I use on 92% of my clients is the gel bottles, builder in a bottle. And I've gone through so many of those, countless. And if you have any questions at all on just gel or acrylic in general, I do have live classes dedicated specifically to those. They were the first two, and they, I think, go through absolutely any question you may have on gel polish or builder gel or hard gel, or I went through basically any category of gel I could think of in the gel one because there's just so many, and there's a lot of different names for the same thing, which can be aggravating. Okay, so here is our cured first layer of this hard gel. And just to show you, I'm going to be encapsulating it, like I said, with this gel in a bottle. I'm going to get a nice bit on my brush. And then first what I do with this is I usually, if I'm doing a full like single encapsulation, is I'll paint it almost like I'm painting it with gel polish. I'll add a thin layer of the gel over the entire nail. And that's nice, especially if you're doing it with glitter too, because it'll go in and around all the little glitter chunks. And then I'll grab my brush again, and then I will just float a little bit of extra down the middle. And like I said, this one is a very thin viscosity, and you can build it up pretty quickly with it. If you want to, you can also flip it back over. Just leave it for a few seconds. Look at it, looks beautiful. In the lamp it goes. So that is technique number 3. So now for the last one, we've got our fourth and final nail tip at the ready. I'm going to be taking this lovely product. This is jewelry gel, and I don't think, yeah, it's called UV LED glue gel, and it's got crystals on it. So if you look up jewelry gel from Amazon, eBay, a nail store, it's actually really easy to find these days. It's at so many places. When I bought this a couple years ago, I had to search so far to get it. And this one is almost gone. You can't really tell on video, but I'm scraping the bottom of it now. I'm going to grab my gel brush again because for some reason I put that away. I'm being too efficient. And I'm going to scoop this up. So this application is the sugaring. So this is the one that's a love it or hate it. And you can do it with jewelry gel like I am. I think that's probably the best choice. I think it holds the best. But you can do it with just your regular gel top coat. You can do it with a builder gel. You can even do it with gel polish, although that would be the least suggested option. And so we're going to apply this. It does not have to be a thick layer. It can be a pretty thin layer of it. And whenever I'm using jewelry gel, I always end up with a lot because it's so thick, it's hard to get it spread out enough. And then after I do get it spread out enough in this type of a circumstance, then you can kind of go through and get rid of some of the extra. So we've got a nice layer of this jeweler gel over the entire nail. It's not super thick. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's just a good thin, usable layer. Then I'm going to take something to put underneath me. So this is just a note card that I have in my glitter box. I'm going to take the nail that's got the wet layer of gel. So don't cure it before you apply the glitter. And then you're going to take your glitter and you're going to sprinkle it over the top. And you're going to make sure that you cover it. Don't worry about pouring out extra onto your note card. That's why the note card's there, to be a catcher. So you're going to make sure that you cover the surface of this and cover it well. So then after you're done with that, you're going to take it and tip it down and then tap off the excess. So now if you're using a thin viscosity builder gel, like the Gel Bottle Inks BIAB, or if you're using gel top coat or gel polish, don't do this step. If you're using a thick viscosity gel, jewelry gel, sculpture gel, something that kind of holds its shape more, then do this step. So this is a sometimes do, sometimes don't. And it just depends on the texture. But if it's a thick one, then you're going to take a gloved hand. Don't just do this with your finger. Gloved hand, and you're going to press the glitter in from the sides. You can wipe down the sides so glitter isn't sticking out. Press in the tip, and then just gently press all over the surface. That will keep any of the really big pieces that are sticking up and causing trouble from sticking up and causing trouble. And it'll just kind of get them all in the gel. So you almost need to do that for a thicker viscosity gel, because otherwise they may not sink in as much as they would with a thinner one. And it just really gets them where they need to go. And if you're doing this with a thinner viscosity gel and you try to push them in, that thinner product may seep up and around it, and you won't get the sugar effect. It'll be almost more like an encapsulation, and then you'll get your gloves so sticky. So you don't want to do that. So here we have it. That's the sugared one. I'm going to stick that in my lamp, and then we can top coat the 3 that are going to be top coated. Well, first I'm going to pour this back into my jar, because again, I'm a spill risk. Got my jar here. You can just take your note card then and kind of create a little funnel. And the glitter goes right back in the jar, at least most of it. Okay, we can put that over to the side. I'm going to put a cap on it. And then look how pretty my table looks. It's all sparkly. So we've got our 3 nails that all need some top coat. And I'm just going to show you guys visually the difference in these. This is pre-top coating. So this one is the one that is the acrylic, just the dipping the acrylic bead into the glitter. This is the one that's pre-mixed, and I added the purple to it, so obviously that's going to look differently because there's a whole other ingredient. And then that one is the one with the gel. And once we apply top coat, the one that's the gel and the one that's the acrylic and this acrylic one will probably look just about the same. So that comes down to product preference. So I got my top coat here. We're going to top coat these. I'm going to top coat all of them right at the same time. Okay, yeah, so see, I mean, it looks just about the same. I actually think I like the way that it appears in the gel better, just because gel tends to have a clarity that acrylic doesn't always have. So there's that one. This is number 2. And then last but not least, we're going to top coat this one. It is shiny, but it has an inhibition layer, so it would be very, very sticky. We don't want that. This is a no cleanse top coat that will get rid of all of that stickiness. And then these can cure one more time. All right, so while that's curing, we can look at the sugared one. Oh, isn't that beautiful? It looks almost like a raw geode. It just has that beautiful, it just picks up the light. It's just absolutely gorgeous. In like the winter season, the holiday season, I love to do raw glitter that is red. That classic like ruby red glitter done in a sugaring technique is just so beautiful and adds so much detail. The other thing that you can do with sugaring is you can paint single lines of your wet gel product. So you can do like a design with your gel, and then you sprinkle it over and the glitter only sticks to the design, and that gives you some really beautiful effects as well. So there are some other options that you can do with the sugaring technique that you can't do with the other ones as easily, but it's still it still has its pros and its cons. It's so pretty. And if you are going to do this one and you're doing it as part of an acrylic set, you'd want to apply a full acrylic overlay prior to doing the sugaring. So that would be like the final step with your top coat. All right, so there we go. Those are the 4 glitter applications. And if anybody has any other questions, I will be on here for just a couple more minutes. We're gonna go and just have a little final chat. I'm gonna take off my gloves for the day. And we're just gonna, yeah. So I hope that this helped you guys. I know that, like I said, when I first started working with glitter, now this was before I did acrylic or hard gel or even gel polish. I didn't even have a lamp. But when I first got some glitter and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try to use this on my nails. It went so badly because I didn't know how to do it. And so I figured I would just make this video to be the final, you know, just a final little, this is what you do for glitter type of deal. And plus my husband's out of the house this evening, which is coincidence, and he hates glitter, so he's lucky. Maybe I'll pour some on him or something. Yeah, no, he's a glitter phobe, so it works out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Any questions, if you know you're watching later, just comment and I will answer them whenever. And if you would like to be on my email list for future live classes so that you can get a list of supplies and anything that you might need ahead of time. Almost lost my voice. That was interesting. Send me an email to hotpinkzebrapolish@hotmail.com. And I will add you to my email list. And then, yeah, it's a free thing just to get on that list. It's 2 emails a month, one a week ahead of the class and one the day of, just as a reminder, so that you can be prepared and you can be already along with me as we go. So I'll see you guys next time. Have a good night, everybody.